Scott Fishbowl season is red hot. Tonight is July 7th, and we are running our final Scott Fishbowl mock draft for the year. We're going to make this one count before moving on to a variety of redraft mocks. I'll also be giving an update on my Scott Fishbowl team as it stands right now. Coming to you live on Optimus Fantasy, this is Monday Night Mock Drafts with Evan. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to Monday Night Mock Drafts with Evan, right here on Optimus Fantasy. Coming to you every Monday night until week 1 of the NFL season. I am your host, Evan Sather. Tonight, I have a loyal guest joining to me. He appears on the Going for Two YouTube channel on the Sunday morning pregame show, answering your start-sit questions during the season. He is a regular on the ROP Football show on YouTube. He is also a contributor for the Fantasy Six Pack. Please welcome to the show, Big Game, Jamie Perog. Jamie, how are you, my friend?
Oh, that was an awesome intro. Thanks for having me, man. It's wild to be on this side of the screen for Optimus Fantasy. I'm always lurking in the chats. I'm just excited to be here and just for this chaos of the mock draft.
Yeah, you've always been loyal in the comments, which is why I had to throw that into my intro as well, because you've been great for all of this, and you've done so much on other platforms for fantasy football, whether that's writing or answering start-sit questions on live shows or just whatever else. Then you've done a heck of a lot.
Yeah, I started about 4 years ago, just kept going with it, and I love doing it. I love fantasy football. That's my passion, and I'm just here to help.
Yeah, so the start-sit show during the season, that's usually the more simpler stuff that, I guess simpler, I guess according to us, just because the vast majority of fantasy football questions mid-season are usually the this or that stuff, X or Y, like which player. You may not necessarily know what they're trying to do with that decision, but so being that I'm guessing that's the vast majority of the questions you get, how do you like doing that on the Sunday mornings? How satisfying is that for you, as you mentioned that this is your passion?
Yeah, I love doing it. I love helping people out. Even before I did the show, I have a Facebook group with over 40,000 people, and I always did a start-sit thread for them. So I would just post it up there, and I would get all the comments. I would go through Saturday night and just answer every single one of the comments. Sometimes it got up to 100, 200 comments, and people just kept telling me how they appreciate my advice. And I wouldn't just give a name of the person to start. I would give a detailed description on why I think they should start that person.
That's especially helpful, too. I know a lot of folks are also looking for that as well, just because they might be stuck between two guys that are really close in the rankings, and they really need to know that why, whether that's weather, matchup, or just they woke up on the wrong side of the bed that morning. You never know, right?
Yep, exactly.
So you're also doing the RPO football show. It looks like you're doing a variety of live shows as often as those go. What else can you tell us about those live shows as well? What you're able to contribute for those?
For the live shows, we don't do too many of them, but I just love interacting with the chat as I'm doing the show. But Mondays, or every other Monday now, I put out a show called Chew on This. It's with my co-host, Chew Russell, Father Dynasty. And we got Steve and Mace. They put out a bunch of the IDP episodes, and I'll hop on with them once in a while. But yeah, no, I love doing the RPO, and it's been great.
If I'm not mistaken, Jamie, I believe Mace has joined us in the mock drafts a few times, so I know he's a real one.
Yeah, Mace is awesome. So glad to have his mind in the IDP world, because I'm newer to IDP, haven't been playing that long. So it's good to have people to bounce ideas off of that actually are pretty smart and know what they're talking about.
You and me both, because I have been tinkering with IDP myself. I just have some free 8-team IDP league that I just stick around in. But I've also had Matt Montgomery on the show last month with the football guys, and he's a big IDP guy as well. So I'll probably be leaning on him when push comes to shove as well, where in addition to your team as well, as I don't know much about IDP, but I'm sure that you guys have a really good idea of what you're doing.
Yeah, Matthew Montgomery is awesome. We had him on the Going for Two Scott Fishbowl live when we did the Cincinnati episode, and he's a very smart guy. I just love talking to him. He's so animated, and he knows what he's talking about.
So, Jamie, have you started your Scott Fishbowl draft yet? Are you attending a live one?
No, I didn't do a live one. I planned on trying to do the Cleveland live. I just couldn't make it with work and the kids. But I am in the Cleveland Guardians division, and we started today, and we're already all the way done with 2 full rounds. So I got to make 2 picks. I'm at the 107. My first pick, man, I don't even remember who I picked. All right, I'm going to pull that up. But my second pick, I know I just made it not too long ago. It was Jonathan Taylor. And
beautiful.
Saquon Barkley fell to me at 107.
Very nice.
I would have probably took him if I was at the 103. So I was surprised he fell to me, and I passed up Bowers for him. So I was happy. My division ended up going like 3 to 4 quarterbacks in the first round. So it got a lot of value for me to fall later.
That's about how it went with mine. Is I'm just going to give a shameless plug update on my Scott Fishbowl draft. So Brock Bowers went second overall, so I knew there was no way I was going to get him at 111. But funny enough, Barkley fell to me at 111, for those of you watching at home who haven't seen my team last week. To get him at 111, though, Jamie, how sick is that for the Scott Fishbowl tournament?
That's insane. What are people thinking?
I guess you'd have to ask my league.
I'm pretty sure he was like number 1 in points per game last year in this scoring format. He was like top 3 overall. So I don't know what people are thinking.
A lot of people are just out on Saquon this year after the 2,000-yard season, making the Madden cover when he did the backwards jump over the Jaguars defender. I think a lot of people are just selling him because they're thinking, oh, Madden curse, or, oh, he's not going to get 2,000 yards again. But, Jamie, are you going to be mad at Saquon if he only rushes for like 1,100 yards this year?
If I took him that early, maybe. But I still love him, man. They didn't really bring in anyone, right? A.J. Dillon, whip-de-doo. They got rid of Gainwell, right? So it's Barkley, Shipley, and that's it. And they got the best offensive line in the game. So I'm not worried about him not hitting another 2,000 yards.
Yeah, getting 1,300 yards is still going to be better than probably almost all the running backs anyway.
Exactly, yeah.
So we'll just go over the rules real quick, just in case you don't know by now. And this is the final Scott Fishbowl mock I'm going to be running this season. But so we've got the IDP scoring this year instead of the return yards. So with Travis Hunter in mind, it's sacks, safeties, interceptions, so just all the IDP categories that you can get points in. So Jamie, in your league, I have not seen Travis Hunter go for anything earlier than 3rd round, which was in my league. He went at the 309 in my league. Did Travis Hunter get taken yet in yours?
Not yet. And if he falls to me in the 3rd, I'm still not taking him. It's just, I know he's a super fun talent, but right now, like, this seems like a volume-based scoring system, right? And it's going to punish part-timers, and his snap share could swing based on the game script. So we just don't know what his time is going to be split on offense and defense. Like, what if he's on defense and he's a shutdown corner, right? It's not going to help that IDP scoring. Like, it's too volatile for me. So I'm staying away unless I can get him in maybe the 4th round. I'll look at him. But if he falls to the 5th, that should be a pretty easy smash for me.
Yeah, that's roughly where he's been falling. I did the Chicago live draft 8 days ago, and that's about where Hunter was falling in pretty much most drafts. I guess in a way he went early in mine, just going in the 3rd round, but I guess that depends on how much confidence you have in a rookie playing 2 ways.
Yeah, I've seen him go as early as like top 5, I think. I'm pretty sure it was a real Scott Fishbowl, not even a mock, but I do see him go early once in a while.
So, Jamie, I don't think I'll be keeping the people waiting too long for the draft. Are you ready, good sir?
Oh, yes. Let me bring it up. I'm in.
All right, I'm going to go ahead and click start. And I should probably remember to turn down the volume. That's real unprofessional of me. Sorry about that. So we're going to get this started with Pocket Dogs, who has the first pick. We will see where they go. I would be surprised if it was Well, then again, I guess nothing would surprise me. It's Scott Fishbowl, but yeah, Bijan Robinson going 101, that's a pretty safe pick. It's either been between Bijan or Chase. Jamie, can you think of any other reason to not go with one of those guys, like maybe Trey McBride or Brock Bowers, for example?
I could see McBride or Bowers go, but I think they should be more like the 4th, 5th, 6th pick. So I'm pretty sure Bowers and McBride were both top 7 in this scoring format last year. So I wouldn't fault someone for going with one of them earlier. But I wouldn't go with the first 2 picks. It's got to be Bijan. It's got to be Chase.
Yeah, I can't see another reason to not take one of those guys so far. Ultimately, I would definitely want to play it safe in the first round, but there are folks that will go bold in the first round of their draft. The guy in front of me at 110, I don't know if you guys caught that with my Scott Fishbowl draft as it's going so far. He took all running backs. Pretty bold strategy, Cotton. We'll see how well it pays off for him.
Yeah, I mean, it is volume based, right? So if he's taking the right ones, as long as his team stays healthy, I think he could score a lot. It's just I would, if I went all running backs, I would try to play it safe in the later rounds and take some of the backups just in case.
Yeah, and now that I'm getting in a later round, the backups are not as fun to take, where you have to start targeting guys like Tyler Algier, and you start looking at those guys, and it's like, do I really gotta? But the one thing I forgot to mention about my Scott Fishbowl draft so far is that I didn't get the notification in time to draft in the 17th round, and I got Blake Corum, and that's not a pick that I'm thrilled about, but you know, knowing my luck, Blake Corum is going to turn out to be like the next James White behind Kyron Williams, and it'll be like, oh, I was smart, I drafted him, though I meant to do that, and I'll have to play it off like that.
Yeah, I think they made a mistake last year taking Corum, and they realized it, so they kind of re-rolled with Jekyll as Hunter. I think Hunter is a better version of Corum, so I like him as the backup compared to Corum.
So speaking of Hunter, he got taken as a 7th round running back, if I'm not mistaken. What's your rookie take on him as far as his prospect profile goes?
He wasn't on my radar until he was the backup of Kyron, because we all know Sean McVay is going to use a running back, right? And he's going to give him all the volume. But, you know, I think he can, you know, I thought he was earlier than a 7th, honestly. But yeah, I know. I think he's a good stash. I don't stash rookies in my taxi squad very much, but Hunter is one of them that I'm willing to actually stash for next year, because Kyron is on his last year of his contract. They're probably not going to sign him. They're going to run him into the ground. If he gets hurt, then I think Hunter's going to step in and get the majority of the touches.
I could see that very being realistic on a Sean McVay team, where I thought that was going to happen 3 years ago with Josh Jacobs when the Raiders were having some contract troubles with him, and then they put the franchise tag on him, and then they signed him for another year, and they ran him into the ground like 3 years ago before they let him go to the Packers. But that's the Raiders we're talking about here. They're not the Rams, and it would make a lot of sense for the Rams to at least let Kyron go, because there's only so much of a beating he can take as the bell cow stud running back. But yeah, I did the same thing with Kyron in my taxi squad when I drafted him as a 4th round dynasty pick, and yeah, that worked out great. But then I sold him after his breakout year. I kind of wish I didn't, but you know, you live and you learn.
What'd you end up getting for him?
Oh, that's a good question. I'm gonna have to get back to you on that one. I'm trying to remember. I think I got Travis Etienne back in the deal, thinking he was gonna be better, but then he kept getting injured. So just my luck.
See, I keep telling people to sell Kyron now before it's too late. Like, yeah,
right,
he's gonna get production, but then it could fall off after he goes to a different team. He's gonna be in a timeshare. His body's gonna be beat up after 3 years of 80+% of carries. So I want to get as much as I can out of him. I think you could get like a mid-first round for him right now.
Yeah, I honestly, I think you could easily get that for Kyron Williams if there are believers in your league for him, where I certainly wish I'd have held him, but, I guess it was just my own erroneous old judgment that I certainly wouldn't repeat that decision again if I could go back, but, hindsight is always 2020, and you just have to do the best you can with what Sean McVay's willing to show you, but whoever's going to take his place, whether that's Blake Corum or Hunter, we'll just have to see who emerges in training camp and preseason and the regular season.
Yep, but I always do that too. So when there's a running back I don't truly believe in, and he breaks out, I'll try to get as much value out of him as possible.
So with the third round reversal, you haven't hit that. You haven't hit that yet in your Scott Fishbowl league. Am I correct?
No, I think we're just finishing up the second round, and it might be the first pick of the third round right now.
Okay, yeah, so that's where stuff is going to get really interesting for your league. So you're in the middle anyway, so unfortunately third round reversal doesn't really benefit you.
Well, that's why I chose it. I would want something between the 5th and the 7th pick, just because it doesn't really affect the third round reversal. And then I also don't have to reach on players as much as if I was at the end. I can just let the draft board fall to me and just grab value. And that's how I usually play the third round reversal.
Yeah, you can say that again. I got Kittle. I believe I forgot to bring this up as well, but I got Kittle in the. I believe it was the. Gosh, when did I get Kittle? Actually, that's a good question. I think I got him in the 6th round, if I'm not mistaken. He fell so low in my Scott Fishbowl draft. I don't know if anybody's going to do that again in any of these other drafts, but hey, I'm all in on Kittle this year. What do you think about George Kittle's value this year across all formats, as he's been usually considered a hot and cold receiver just based on how Kyle Shanahan runs his offense, where Kittle doesn't get the ball sometimes, Ayuk doesn't get the ball sometimes. What do you think of Kittle this year?
I think he's going to smash, because you got to remember last year he did outscore Bowers and McBride on a per game basis, but it's his injuries that I'm worried about, staying healthy, because he's always on the injury report list his whole career. Even if he doesn't miss the games, he's still on the injury report list. But with Debo moving on and Ayuk actually not going to be healthy for the first half of the season, I think they have to use Kittle even more. So I love Kittle. I think he's going to be in that tight end 1, tight end 2 territory, like with Bowers and McBride. So I love waiting on tight end in my drafts and let people take Bowers and McBride early, and then I'll grab Kittle later on in the draft.
So I pulled up the trade that I did for Kyron Williams in Dynasty. So I gave up Javonte Williams, Zamir White, Kyron Williams, and a third in exchange for Calvin Ridley, Travis Etienne, and a 2026 second. So in April of 2024, it sounded good. But Etienne just kept getting hurt that season. So, like I said, bad luck on my part.
I mean, at least you got a receiver back, and I don't know who you took with that second. Did you say it was 2025?
So that was these were 2026 picks that we swapped, and I actually ended up selling that 2026 second. I'm trying to remember who I got with that now. But that pick ended up going to somebody else anyway, so I don't want to keep digging for it, though, since this is a Scott Fishbowl show. We'll just keep it moving here. So far with your team thus far, Jamie, you got CeeDee Lamb at the 107, Jonathan Taylor at the 206, which is, this looks like that's your exact start in the first 2 rounds, if I'm not mistaken.
Well, the first round I took Barkley in my real time. So, but yeah, Jonathan Taylor, if he falls to me at the second round pick, I'm taking that all day. You got to remember last year, he got hurt. He missed a few games, right? With that high ankle sprain.
He sure did.
When he came back, he had a little bit of a slow start, but you got to remember, high ankle sprains usually take about 2 full months to repair itself. And if you look at the last 3 or 4 games, he was in this format. I think he was getting like 40 to 50 points per game. The beginning of the season, he was getting those 30, 40 points per game. So I think people discounted him because of those games he missed and that slow start coming back. I think he's going to smash again this year. They didn't really bring in anyone but Giddens, and I don't know who else is the backup there, but I'm not worried about him. I think he's going to get that 70+% workload.
Yeah, I don't see why Jonathan Taylor doesn't return to that. With the Colts with the way they've struggled, especially to run the ball, and Taylor also kept getting injured. I made a lot of people mad at me on my own Barely Fantasy personal YouTube channel when I made a short called Trey Sermon is not good. And that blew up with a few thousand views. And that was right before he had that game against the Jaguars in which he caught 6 passes and he fell into the end zone and he averaged something like 3 and change per carry. He didn't even rush the ball that well as he was splitting with Tyler Goodson. But I had a lot of people coming at me in the comments being like, oh, this aged like milk. And they all got quiet when he returned to form against the Titans the following week. Yeah. So the backups to Jonathan Taylor, I don't know if I'm supposed to be impressed with DJ Giddens, but I guess only time will tell. They also got Khalil Herbert, who's pretty much a shell of his former self at this point.
Yeah, I'm not a fan of Herbert. I sold him in my rookie draft. I don't remember. I think it was a 3rd or 4th rounder just because I was going to drop him anyway. So I was like, why not try to get something out of it?
That was the best possible thing you could have done with Khalil Herbert now that he's got practically 0 dynasty value remaining.
Exactly. Yep. And then it was to the Jonathan Taylor owner. So what I was doing, and I looked and see who had Jonathan Taylor. I offered him to pick, and I can't remember who I got. One of the rookies. I might have took like Woody Marks or something like that. But yeah, it's funny Trey Sermon though, because I remember I drafted him once in a rookie draft, and after I drafted him, I traded Sermon and Mostert and my 3rd round pick, and I got Jamar Chase.
Wow.
Jamar Chase was at the time where people were like, "Oh, he can't catch. He drops balls," so people were kind of fading him.
His rookie year, there was talk that he couldn't see the white lines on the football because apparently he was too used to that in college and people took that quote so seriously. Everybody was fading him. And then Jamar Chase also had a contract dispute at the beginning of last season, so people thought he was going to hold out. I drafted him in several leagues, and man, did that pay off. I took 2nd in the league where he fell so much.
Yeah, I was getting him in the like 5th, 6th pick sometimes.
Yeah, that's crazy how low he fell. And the fact that you got him with such a lopsided trade. Ooh, robbery, my man.
I remember at the time it was the 49ers backfield, right? Those were the 2 starters, Mostert and Sermon. And Sermon was getting that huge hype. So I took advantage of it and made the trade. Yeah, I'm pretty sure he was going in like the early 2nd round of rookie drafts, and Chase was going mid 1st.
So, Jamie, I like this start you have going as well. First of all, congratulations on getting Saquon at 107. That's still a heck of a deal. And then you follow that up with Jonathan Taylor, which is also great value in the 2nd round. I won't ask you what you're planning on doing with the rest of your picks to not give away, no competitive advantage for the rest of your league. But if this were the real start that you had in the first 5 rounds where you get 3 great running backs, you got your stud wide receiver, and now you have your first quarterback, are you happy with this first 5 with this Ultraflex format?
I am. Yeah, because volume is king, obviously. And, Taylor, Kamara, I think Walker is being underlooked right now because they're going to be running that zone scheme offense. And I think Taylor fits that very well. And as long as he can stay healthy, I think he's going to smash. Charbonnet, I don't think he fits that kind of offensive running scheme as much. So I think Walker is going to be used more and more as the season goes on, as long as he can stay healthy. Murray, I kind of regret that pick, but I was looking at like a rushing type quarterback. I would have took Justin Fields, got sniped, so I had to pivot. And there is one player I probably would have took over Murray, and I'm hoping he falls to me in the 6th round.
So, speaking of Justin Fields, Zion Penumbra brings up that drafting Justin Fields in the 5th round is such a steal. For this particular format, I have seen Fields go that early at the Chicago Live draft as well. And if not, then it's definitely before round 10. Like, Justin Fields is getting a lot of crazy high value in these drafts just because of his, I guess I was just about to say triple threat, but I can't think of the third thing that he does really well. I have yet to see him catch a pass, but we know he runs the ball really well, and he's not a bad passer either, contrary to how a lot of haters feel about him. So Justin Fields has Garrett Wilson and basically Mason Taylor as his second receiver, and then Breece Hall to take some pressure off of him so he doesn't have to run the ball so much. Are you okay with this Jets offense as it looks right now?
For fantasy football, yeah. Like, give me Justin Fields, give me Breece, give me Mason Taylor even. But for real football, no. I don't think it's going to hold up that well winning actual NFL games. Justin Fields, in my eyes, I think he's a top 8, top 10 quarterback in league. So I'm getting him outside of the top 10 in most of my other drafts. And I'm not sure how. Let's see. He went 1, 2, 3, 4, 8th quarterback off the board. So yeah, like that's right around where I have him ranked, and I'd be happy taking him as the 8th quarterback off the board, especially in this format.
Oh, definitely. And Lou Brunson has heard that Justin Fields' banana bread is phenomenal, so that's probably the third thing that I meant to mention. And Lou, we're going to go with that because I can't think of what I was going to say otherwise.
So Kelsey did not make it back to me. That was the one guy. I think he's going to get back up into that top tier tight end. He's been focusing more on football, kind of putting his boyfriend Taylor Swift to the side while he's going to make a big, huge splash to go out on top.
Totally. So the value of tight ends, especially with the 2.5 PPR in sleeper and the bonuses that come along with it. I love me some reception bonuses as well. Being that you don't tend to see tight ends in regular formats average more than about... I'll let you make this next pick before I finish that question, though.
Yeah, I have no idea where I'm going with this one. All right.
10 seconds, less than that.
There we go. I got it.
Beautiful, Cortland Sutton. I love me some Cortland Sutton in as a wide receiver 2 value. But before we get to Sutton, I'll finish the last question I was going to ask you. So, roughly every year, the top 10 tight ends are usually the ones that average 10 fantasy points per game. So, with the way that tight ends are being valued in this Ultraflex and bonus points per reception, do you care to value tight ends higher than where they're going right now in this mock draft?
I think they're going appropriately where they're at right now, because you got to remember Bowers and McBride and even Kittle, they're going to get 6, 7 plus extra points per game with those catches, right? It's when we get down to the, let's say the 12th tight end. I think last year it was Jake Ferguson. He would only get about, I think it was 3.3 extra points in this format. So there is a huge drop off from those top 5, 6 tight ends to the 12th guy. So yeah, after the first 6, 7 go, I'm not really going to reach on any of them just because we don't know. It's hard to rank the tight ends after the top guys.
Yeah, definitely. And in Ultraflex, I did not reach on tight end at all because, as you mentioned earlier, volume is king. Give me the guys that I think are going to get the best value for volume with, however many guys I can get based on where they land. Now, I want to get back to your Cortland Sutton pick as well, as Lou Brunson is also a big fan of that pick as well. Cortland Sutton has phenomenal chemistry with Bo Nix, and that's great for Bo Nix considering it's his rookie year. They both have Sean Payton as their head coach. They're throwing the ball pretty well considering their lack of talent at wide receiver aside from Cortland Sutton. I feel like too many people sleep on Cortland Sutton. Do you think he's going to have another big year with the way that he did last year? I'm trying to remember where he finished last year in PPR leagues. I think he was wide receiver 10.
Yeah, either 10 to 15, somewhere between 10 to 15. But yeah, people are sleeping on him. He's the main target in an offense. They just drafted a rookie. They're not going to throw a rookie in and take away targets from Sutton. Marvin Mims, I'm not scared of Marvin Mims. Like, yeah, I do like Marvin Mims in the like best ball formats later in the draft, but there's no one else there to take away targets from Sutton. So I just think he's going to keep increasing and be that top 10 to 15 type of wide receiver, but you're getting him at a massive discount.
Yeah, definitely. And as much as I love Marvin Mims as a sleeper pick in Dynasty, I wouldn't expect him to hit every single week either, but there really isn't anybody strong behind him as the wide receiver too. And I was talking about this with Amrith when I had him on a few weeks ago. Pat Bryant is coming out of the University of Illinois as a slant route specialist with a pretty decently big body build. I don't know if he's the exact same size as Michael Thomas was, but there's a lot of hype behind him as a potential second wide receiver. But being a later round wide receiver, I'm not sure if I'm ready to pay up to go get a Pat Bryant. What do you have any opinions on him, Jamie? And what do you see? Where do you see him fitting in with this Denver offense?
I think he's more of the future. So next year, to like 2026 and beyond, like they compared him to Michael Thomas, I believe.
Yes.
Yeah. So yeah, and I mean, if that's the case, I've been taking Brian Thomas not Pat Bryant in the third rounds of my rookie draft, and I'll just stash him on my taxi squad. And even in best ball formats, if I can get him later on, I forgot what round I took him in, but there was one of the hosts of the show I was doing just dogged my Pat Bryant pick, but I thought it was late enough to where it really doesn't affect the team as long as he can hit the lineup maybe once or twice during the season in the best ball format. Like, I thought it was a good value.
Yeah, I don't think I'll be spending any of my rookie picks in my Dynasty rookie draft. Mine's coming up at the end of July. Mine's pretty late compared to a lot of other Dynasty leagues, but I don't plan on spending a draft pick on him. But if I can get him for free afterwards, I'll gladly stash him in a taxi squad spot and hope for the best. And if we start calling him Pat Thomas, then so be it. That's kind of an honor to have with excelling at slant routes, where, you know, Michael Thomas took the whole slant boy insult as if that's a bad thing to excel at slant routes. It's a great way to get open to catch the football for being an easy possession receiver.
Yeah, especially in PPR formats where you're getting that extra points.
Absolutely, because I can't imagine playing in anything that doesn't have any value to get receptions. Like, I've never played in a standard league. I don't know about you.
Back in like 2007 was the last one I think I played in, maybe 2008. Well, everything after that was PPR.
We're not here to... Sorry, go ahead.
I hear people still play in standard leagues, which is insane to me.
Yeah, and hey, we're not here to get down on anybody who still plays in standard leagues. You guys do you, if that's your thing. So Zion Perumba mentioned he was tempted to not go Ingram and instead go Caleb Johnson, but with, you know, the points per catch at half a point, not too many elite upside tight ends left, and I fully agree with that as well. I have Evan Ingram as my tight end 5 this year in my in my draft rankings, where Evan Ingram, I think, is getting slept on too much. The Denver Broncos have not had a great tight end since Julius Thomas. Do you think Evan Ingram is going to fit in great on the Broncos offense, Jamie?
Yeah, he profiles as that Joker role type that Sean Payton used in the past with Jimmy Graham. So I could see a top 5 season from him. If he would have took Caleb Johnson instead of Ingram, I would have took Evan Ingram. I'd rather have Evan Ingram over Caleb Johnson, especially in this format.
Yeah, I fully agree with you. I do too. Speaking of Caleb Johnson in the Steelers' backfield, I do not expect any rookie running backs except for Quinshawn Judkins and Ashton Genty to get immediate starter, possible bell cow role work right away, where all the other great rookie running backs that we're seeing with high prospect profiles, I'm expecting them to share the backfield with another running back until they prove they can handle a larger role. Do you think Caleb Johnson is going to get a bigger role than Najee Harris ever got, or is Jaylen Warren still going to be the change of pace pass catcher behind him?
No, it's going to be Jaylen Warren getting the change of pace. Caleb Johnson is just going to step in to Najee's role, which isn't a bad thing because he was getting at least 55% of the snaps, right? And if Caleb Johnson gets that, he's fresh. he's young, he's hungry. He could even outproduce Najee Harris's like carries per yard even. So I don't mind getting him that late. I'm not a Steelers fan, but you got to respect the running backs in that backfield. They're always going to put up some kind of a number.
I was chatting about this earlier today on Blue Sky that Travion Henderson is another possible stud running back that could emerge out of this Patriots backfield. And there's a lot of people who are sleeping on Ramondre Stevenson just because he happened to have fumbling problems last year, which, first of all, that was the only year he's had fumbling problems. And two, his value is falling so low in a lot of draft rankings where listen, Jamie, if Ramondre Stevenson falls my way, I'm going to happily grab him. I don't expect him to be like my top 2 running backs, but I would love to get me some shares of Ramondre Stevenson this season. What do you think of the Patriots backfield? Are you in agreement with me on that, or do you see something else?
I just think Henderson is going to take it most of the snaps as the season goes on. I don't think they have any ties to Stevenson after this year. I think he had a 2-year deal, but they could find a way out of it next year. So for this year, I've been skipping that whole backfield. I haven't really been drafting Henderson, even though I love the guy. I'm an Ohio State fan. But just for Dynasty, I love him. I have him as a top 6 or 7 overall running back in Dynasty just because of his future. But this year, I don't like it. I think it is going to be more of like a split between Stevenson and Henderson. And then they still have Gibson in that backfield also.
Antonio Gibson is somehow still on the team, but his role remains a bit murky. He also had some fumbling problems over the last couple of years as well. I liked his pass-catching abilities, but I don't know what NFL teams are doing with him anymore. I don't know why they don't have him play wide receiver like he did in college.
Yeah, they should. I mean, they need wide receiver help. So,
and then some. They got Stephon Diggs at least. And actually, Jamie, Stephon Diggs is another guy that I can't wait to get if he falls my way as well. I think because he's an older receiver coming off an ACL tear, people are scared. And I'll give you an old example. 2016 was Jordy Nelson's year coming off the ACL tear. I took him as my first wide receiver, and then he goes on to finish as a wide receiver 1 in the season. So Stephon Diggs, I don't think is necessarily going to finish wide receiver 1, but does he still have elite value?
It's hard to say. I'm going to say no.
Are you okay with Drake May throwing him the football, more importantly?
He's 30. He's 31, going to be 32, right? And he's coming off that injury. I think he's going to be the lead target, and he's going to get those short, the intermediate passes. So, yeah, he's going to be the wide receiver 1 on the team, but I can't put him in a fantasy lineup anything higher than a wide receiver 3 just because of that volatility. We don't know if he's going to come back fully healthy. He was the one that had that pink stuff on the boat, right? So we don't know what's going on. I just got sniped. Hella sniped.
Oh, dear. You were going to get Ray Davis?
No, Josh Downs was my pick.
Mm.
And Jordan Mason was my backup pick. So I don't know what to do here.
I just love that any specific name that I've mentioned so far manifests into somebody taking him in our draft, which I love you guys for doing that too.
I'm gonna do this. So I think this is someone people are sleeping on very hard because last year I think he was tight end 7, and he didn't show us anything to fall off. Zach Ertz.
Yeah, Zach Ertz was getting some sneaky value in certain weeks. I don't consider him elite anymore, but at least with what's left in the twilight of his career, Jaden Daniels has proven that he's the real one, so I don't see why not at 10-7. I'd say that's sneaky good value.
Yeah, I don't hate it, and I just think because of his age, people are starting to fade him a little bit more.
Indeed, and Philadelphia picked Travis Etienne. I'll get back to him. The Jaguars, apparently right now, this is Travis Etienne's backfield to lose, quite frankly. He's in the final year of his contract. He's still going to be the lead back, even with some hungry younger running backs behind him between Tank Bigsby, and now they spent a 4th-round pick on Bashal Tutin out of Virginia Tech. What do you see out of Travis Etienne in the final year of his deal, Jamie? Is he still the guy?
I think he is still the guy, at least for the first half of the year. He's a good value right now. I've been not targeting him, but he just falls into my lap in all my best ball leagues when I do it on underdog. And I'm not mad at taking him because I think he's going to be the focus of that offense in the run game, and he's going to catch passes out of the backfield. And then Tootin, I love Tootin. The guy is an athletic freak. Every time I watched him play in college, I just hear Rick James in the back of my head. You know, that song Super Freak. And he's amazing, man. So I think he's the future if he can take care of them fumbling issues himself. But one guy people are sleeping on, not for redraft, but for dynasty, is LaQuint Allen. So I think Tootin and LaQuint Allen are going to be the future in that backfield going forward for the next 3-4 years.
So you've got belief in both of those guys back there.
Yeah, both rookies. Maybe not just this year, but going forward, I think so. So if you have ETN in any of your leagues and he's blowing up the first 7-8 weeks, go ahead and sell him. Get something good for him, because I think it'll start falling off after that, because they're going to want to bring in the rookies and see what they have with them, because I believe ETN's on the last year of his contract.
Yes, I did mention that, indeed.
And the regime didn't draft him, so they're going to want to move on.
Yeah, remember that was Urban Meyer's draft pick to replace James Robinson. So, poor Etienne was getting hurt left and right last year. I think he was playing with like 3 different injuries at once when he was able to take the field.
Yeah, yep, I think so.
So, Tank Bigsby to me is basically A.J. Dillon, but with a little more talent. So, is Tank Bigsby pretty much screwed?
Yeah, I think so. Because, I mean, if you're going to compare him to A.J. Dillon, it's a name. It's a name people always held on to, but they just never showed anything on the field to prove it. So, I think he's not going to be worth any pick in redraft, best ball, dynasty. I would just stay away from him.
100% agreed. Before we review this mock draft, I'll ask you one more question. So I made a few people I infuriated a few people on Blue Sky last week when I said Bashal Tutin, if I had to oversimplify his prospect profile right now, he's basically DeAndre Swift, but not yet without his talent. So Bashal Tutin, like you mentioned earlier, he had the fumbling problems at Virginia Tech. He's not a big pass catcher, and he prefers to run around blocks rather than trusting his lead blockers to run through them. Do you think these are all fixable problems where he can develop in this Jacksonville backfield, and is he going to be successful on this team?
Yeah, I think he could fix his issues with the right coaching. You got to remember, in college, it was a 266-yard rushing game, just rushing. Like, he actually left Virginia Tech with 2 single-game rushing records for that college. So he's that huge home run hitter, like that big play threat guy. Like, he knows how to read defenses very well. From what I saw, like he'll hit the hole quickly, and he's just got that like huge long speed that you're not going to be able to catch up with him. I think he's got good hands. He's effective in the passing game, and he's actually more effective on the goal line than people think. So just the way Tootin runs, he makes it look effortless. Like, it looks so easy for him. And if he can translate that to the next level in the NFL, I think he's going to be somewhat of a superstar. Like, think CJ Spiller or Jamal Charles, right? Now, if he's not going to hit them, but you also got to think of, like, there's an Elijah Mitchell type or a Pierre Strong. If he can get somewhere in the middle of the, like, Spiller and Jamal Charles and Elijah Mitchell, Pierre Strong type running back, I think he's going to be a value.
Yeah, no, I definitely agree. And we'll have to see what LaQuint Allen shows in training camp and preseason as well to see if he actually can cut the mustard and make the roster spot for this team. They have Chad Morton as their running backs coach, and he was the Bears running backs coach last year who worked with DeAndre Swift, so he was decent at the job. I didn't think the running game was spectacular, but Swift did the best he could behind a terrible offensive line. So we'll have to see how well they do down there.
Yeah. Speaking of the Bears, I got my Roshan Johnson jersey on, guys.
Oh, baby.
Oh my God. I think he's gonna smash this year. I was disappointed I couldn't get him in this draft because we only did 11 rounds.
Yeah, let me get back to you about Roshan, though. I'll ask you what I ask everybody who comes on the show after the mock draft completes. Whose start to their Scott Fishbowl team do you like most?
Oh, let me check real quick. Well, I obviously like my start here.
So. Yeah, let's take a look at what you did first before we look at anybody else's. So, CeeDee Lamb, Jonathan Taylor, and then you got some great value out of Alvin Kamara and Ken Walker. First quarterback is Kyler Murray, and then some incredible value with Cortland Sutton, Caleb Johnson as your fourth running back. Beautiful. Jawan Jennings, Khalil Shakir, which are two wide receivers that don't get the love they deserve sometimes, even though I'm not a big fan of Jennings myself. Zach Ertz as your first tight end, and then Trevor Lawrence as your second quarterback. So, take us through the rest of this team. Where do you see value that I think a lot of people might not?
Khalil Shakir. He's going to be the number one wide receiver on the Bills. He's going to be playing the slot, so he'll get those first downs, especially in this format. That's what you want. He's going to lead the team in receptions. Like, I'm not afraid of Keon Coleman. I think Coleman might step up a little bit this year, but nothing that's going to take away from Shakur. I know they picked up Elijah Moore, who could play a similar role, but I think they just brought him in to play maybe like a 4 wide receiver set, or in case Khalil Shakur gets hurt. So I love my value on Shakur, and I love my value on Jennings because, like I said, with Ayuk getting injured last year, not going to come back fully healthy. It might take him until week 8 or 9, even just to get his footing right. Who else are you going to throw the ball to besides Kittle? It's going to be Jennings. So I love my value on Jennings.
What I hate about what you just said, Jamie, is that you're probably right about Juwan Jennings, and I've been in denial about that because Ricky Pearsall was a first-round pick last year before he got shot, and we're all, don't get me wrong, we're all happy he's better, but being that they spent a first-round pick on the guy, I'm thinking they're going to want to see who they have in him too, which could affect Juwan Jennings' volume. So with the other wide receivers that they have on that team, which is not really a whole lot of spectacular depth aside from Ayuk, do you see Jennings still holding steady with every week fantasy volume?
I do. He got massive targets last year, over 100 catches, right? So let me ask you this. So if you're worried about Jennings and because of the Pearsall thing with the first round, are you worried about Ladd McConkey because they took Quinshon or QJ?
Well, different situation because Quentin Johnston he was given the opportunities to be the number one guy, but just could not pull down the football. I had a bad case of the dropsies in his first couple of years. And don't get me wrong, I don't think he's a terrible wide receiver, but he's had his chance and he hasn't really shown that he can be a top guy, in addition to the great chemistry that Ladd McConkey's already built with Justin Herbert. So, yeah, no, I don't think Quentin Johnston has a similar path to Ricky Pearsall.
Yeah, well, Pearsall last year, I mean, what was he, wide receiver 70? So I could see him taking a step forward. Maybe he hits the top 50, between 40 to 50. So, yeah, I'm not hating on Pearsall. I just don't think he's going to step up as people think. Someone told me it once. He was like, he's going to get 180 targets or 160 targets. So I did the math. I'm like, so what makes you think Jennings is going to only get like 60 targets? Like, he got 120 plus last year. They're not going to cut his volume in half just for Pearsall to step up and be that 35% target share guy. I see him getting maybe 20, but not the 35% that's one person, whoever it was, said that he's going to be a top guy.
Yeah, I also don't agree about the 35% cut either. That doesn't sound realistic for a guy who has built some incredible chemistry with Brock Purdy when everybody got hurt last year.
Exactly. So I'm looking at all these teams, and I see a lot of good starts here. Jahmyr Gibbs, Derrick Henry, Chuba Hubbard. Love that start. And I love
Philadelphia, every time he joins, always has incredible drafts.
Yeah, and I'm looking even Pollard. Like Pollard had similar in this format, similar numbers to Joe Burrow as a quarterback. So, and Joe Burrow went multiple rounds earlier. So Engram, love Engram. Oh, I didn't realize that was Philadelphia. I love this dude. Philadelphia is awesome.
Yeah, like I said, he crushes it every time. I think you compared Joe Burrow to Pollard. Did you mean Herbert?
Maybe it was Herbert. Maybe I'm mistaken, but I know like Joe Burrow, he had similar numbers to like if you take his numbers from last year, I think overall it was like Njoku, Devontae Adams, J.K. Dobbins was one at like a point per game basis that they were getting similar numbers. But overall it was like Hubbard, Chase Brown, James Conner type running backs that got similar numbers to Joe Burrow. Because I was looking at the Going for Two website, Jeff Lambert, he put all the points per game and the overall points for seasonal and Scott Fish Bowl. So I was looking at that, and they weren't too far apart from each other.
Yeah, that's going to be what's brand new for me this year. This is my first ever Scott Fish Bowl. So to see how value is distributed among all these positions, and now that we're in Ultraflex, it almost does not matter who you take at this point. Just, like we were saying earlier, volume is king. Get your guys. It does not matter who.
Exactly. Just have fun with it because we're not going to win. Let's be honest. There's over 4,000 people.
I mean, I don't want to say that yet. I'd like to see us make the playoffs and then see where luck carries us, right?
Exactly. Actually, the guy that won last year, it was his first Scott Fish Bowl league, and he won it. So maybe it's your turn.
Yeah, I did hop. For those of you who are not subscribed to Fantasy Cares on YouTube, that's another great channel to subscribe to. I appeared on the Podathon yesterday at 5:30 Eastern as a part of the big charity stream. In addition to giving away Matthew Berry gave away his Scott Fish Bowl draft spot as well, and I followed that guy, and yeah, he mentioned that was his first ever Scott Fish Bowl tournament, and I'm thinking, hey, if he can do it, anybody can do it. So I don't want to lose hope.
So I'm looking at these teams overall. Like I do love Philadelphia's start up until Tracy. Not a fan of Tracy, but that's only the last 4 picks. But overall, I like Vince's team. Start off with Bowers, Genty, Jacobs. I mean, all 3 of those guys, I think, could be in the top 12 overall this year in scoring. And then Rashid Rice, I mean, when he's healthy, he's a top 12 type receiver. Mayfield, I would have probably took Fields over or maybe not. No, Mayfield, even though he doesn't rush that much, I think he's still going to get enough volume and touchdowns that he deserves to be in that area.
Having Mike Evans to throw the ball to makes up for the lack of rushing, right?
Exactly. And then they just brought in Ibuka, his second-year receiver, McMillan. So I like that. Metcalf, number 1 target in that offense. Who else are they going to throw the ball to besides the 2 tight ends they got now, right?
Well, it's probably going to be Jonnu Smith taking a lot of end-around carries on the goal line, right?
Yeah, but that's not going to take away from DK Metcalf's 2 routes that he could run straight down the field, catch the ball in the end zone. Like, they're still going to use them that way. So I don't mind it. Zay Flowers, number 1 receiver, number 1 even target on his team, and you're getting him in the 7th round. That's insane.
And Lamar Jackson had a bunch of career highs in throwing last year, too, and Zay Flowers was a huge beneficiary.
Mm-hmm. And then even Dak, I can see a good comeback from Dak. You know, he'll have some rushing upside, and they just brought in Pickens. That's going to help him even more. So I do love that Dak value. I was looking at him. And then Godwin, I mean, you got the stack, Mayfield and Godwin, right? Godwin was the number 1 or number 2 wide receiver the first 6 weeks before he got hurt. So if he comes back to even half of that, you're going to love that value right there in the 8th round or 9th round. One critique I have is Brandon Ayuk, because you're taking him in your starting lineup, right? So you're going to get a big fat 0 for the first 8 weeks or whatever he's out. And the playoffs start week 12, right? So you're only going to be able to play him to try to get into the playoffs for a few weeks after he comes back. So I'm staying away from Ayuk in every single one of my leagues because I just keep seeing him going way too early.
Yeah, I suppose it's hard to ignore the talent of a Brandon Ayuk, despite the fact that he won't be ready to go right away. But, I mean, to fall to the 10-9, and as long as you draft value guys for the rest of your team with the remaining 11 picks, assuming that this is a real Scott Fishbowl draft, and having Godwin, Flowers, Metcalf, and Rice ahead of him, are you really that worried about not having Ayuk for that long, though? Because I'm not.
I mean, if you can get a replaceable player, like say if Jaden Reed falls to you, I'm looking who's left. There's not many people that could fall to you. Maybe take a burden, but I mean, a rookie coming in with a lot of target competition. I don't know if Bateman, he's more of that boom, player that you don't want unless it is a best ball, but you already have Flowers.
Right.
So I don't know who you would take after this point to give him maybe a Rashad White. Hunter Henry. Yeah. Or an Auden. I can see that.
Mm-hmm.
Strange, Mason Taylor. So if you grab one of them tight ends, I could see maybe replacing him. Tillman would be a good one. Roshan Johnson. I mean, you can't go wrong with Roshan Johnson, right?
Yeah, you are wearing his jersey, and I'll ask you one more question as well. So I told you we'll get back to the Roshan Johnson part. So Roshan Johnson, I'm a Chicago Bears fan, in case those of you listening for the first time may not know. I do not believe Roshan Johnson has a secure future in Chicago. I think he will not be re-signed by this team. I loved him coming out of Texas as Bijan Robinson's backup, but the Chicago Bears pretty much ruined his development just with how bad the offensive coaches were in his earliest parts of his career. I mean, I might be a sucker for saying that it's too late when he could very well be better this year, but based on the way DeAndre Swift offers more as far as agility and pass catching goes, I can't see Roshan overtaking DeAndre Swift as far as volume goes, except for like maybe goal line formations. But Jamie, do you agree with me, the Bears fan, on that? Is Roshan going to have any good value this year?
I think he is, because if you are right, they did kind of ruin him. They didn't use him the way he should. His first game of his rookie season, I think he had like 33% of the snap share. He was running back 8 on that week. So he does have those touchdown potentials. He does know how to block, so that could get him on the field. And like he's going to get the goal line touches. We saw it last year. So on a points per opportunity basis, last year Roshan was running back 10. And then he also, I looked at it, he had the number 1 defenders in the box against him out of all the running backs because he got a lot of goal line work, right? So I think he's still going to get that goal line work. They improved the offense, so that's going to mean more goal line work for him. And if something does happen to Swift, where he does get hurt for a week or two, hopefully Roshan's healthy at that time, and he could step in and get like a 60%, 70% snap share. And if he does, I think he could be a top 15, top 20 type running back on a weekly basis, just with his skill set.
Gosh, I hope you're right, because we need some help in that backfield. I hope Ben Johnson can save us on that part.
Ben Johnson factor too. We saw what he did with Gibbs and Monty, right?
Yes, sir.
If he implements some kind of a similar duo with Roshan and Swift. I know they got Monungai, but he's not my guy. I'm not a Monungai fan. I think they took him in what, 6th, 7th round.
He was a 7th rounder, yeah.
So I'm not worried about that guy. Like people are hyping him up over Roshan, and I just don't see it.
Yeah, I don't know if I'm ready to put him over Roshan either, but I really, really can't wait to see what he can do in training camp in the preseason to see if he's going to serve any valuable depth this year. And hopefully he's in the right system to develop it in the running game. So we'll just have to hope for the best. So, with that said, Jamie, we're going to start to wrap things up here. Before we do that, let's go over some incredible sponsors who have been doing great things with Optimus, starting with Fast Draft Fantasy. We know you love drafting. After all, it's why you're here. And there's no better place to do it right now than the Fast Draft app. Get in and get out with short drafts you can knock out while you wait at the DMV. The Flex 4 drafts are running hot, and the Origins Gamma contests are only half full. Head over to fastdraft.app and sign up with the promo code Optimus for a $50 deposit match as soon as you finish your first draft. That's 10 free drafts, friends. Head over to fastdraft.app now and get drafting with the promo code Optimus. Also, the Fantasy Football Expo will be here before you know it, and we've got you covered. The Fantasy Football Expo is a great chance to meet your favorite analysts from around the industry, participate in meet and greet sessions, watch live industry drafts, and get to hang out with a bunch of fantasy football fanatics for an entire weekend at the Pro Football Hall of Fame. Join the Optimus crew in Canton, Ohio, August 8th through 10 for live meet and greets, golf tournaments, cornhole, parties, panels, and more. Head over to the Fantasy Football Expo to get your tickets with our promo codes Optimus-2025 for $10 off the purchase of a gold, silver, or VIP package. Ultimate-Optimus-2025 for a $25 off the purchase of the Ultimate Fan Experience. This includes a Friday exclusive meet and greet ticket to get up and close and personal with your favorite fantasy football analysts. Limited number available. Jamie, my man, I am so glad we finally got you on the show. Thank you so much for joining us this evening. It was great.
Yeah, I appreciate the invite. Like, I had a blast. I just want to say good luck to everyone in their draft going forward, and may your regrets be few and your reaches be legendary.
If Scott Fishbowl's the time to do some reaches. Ladies and gentlemen, this has been another episode of Monday Night Mock Drafts with Evan. Once again, I'd like to thank my guest Jamie Perog for joining us this evening. If you haven't already, subscribe to Going for Two, Fantasy Six Pack, and the RPO Football Show on YouTube after this show ends. Jamie, tell the people what else you have coming up over the next few weeks or months that they should check out.
Just my Dynasty podcast every Wednesday at 9:30 Eastern Time at the Fantasy Six Pack. Me and my host Kyle Senra and Raul, we just talk Dynasty. Every other Monday, I put out an RPO. It's called Chew on This with my co-host Chew Russell, Father Dynasty, and hopefully I'll be getting back into the Going for Two. We're going to start our Tuesday cheat sheet coming up soon, and then once the season starts, I'll be doing the start sits every Sunday morning.
Fantastic. Also, thank you to everybody who joined the mock draft this evening. It is darn near impossible to do a mock draft show without folks like you mocking with us. Tonight was, as a reminder, the last night that we're doing Scott Fishbowl mock drafts for the year. So next week, we will be doing a 12-team Superflex PPR redraft mock. Joining me next week for that one is a well-respected personality from the Devi Royale. If you would like to join us for that draft, I'll let you guys guess which one will that be. But if you'd like to join us for that draft, head over to our Discord server for a first pick at draft spots when that sleeper mock draft room gets created. The link to our Discord server is in the description, and there's also some beta testing tools that are coming up with Optimus that will be hopefully going live soon on our website. If you would like an opportunity to test those tools as well, great time to join the Optimus server. Please do so. Coming to you live on Optimus Fantasy. Have a great night. I'll see you all next week. Take care.